Chapter 7. Joy Rhythm the Dance. In a study of the psychology of life, we are often confronted by little or great movements that spring up almost in a night, swaying, at times, only the body of people or the nation that inaugurated them, and again exerting a worldwide influence. The student of history will find any number of such movements. As a general thing, they have small beginnings, but, like the small snowball started rolling downhill, they soon accumulate greater weight and body, and, after a time, assume huge proportions. Reaching their climax, they usually begin to diminish, and then seem gradually to pass away, but this is seldom, if ever, the case. There is always something left behind that may eventually flame into being and repeat itself again. These periodic waves of movements assume many and varied forms. Sometimes it may be a financial wave such as the South Sea Bubble. Finance is periodically subject to its years of receding and its years of flood tides, which, whether we know it or not, are states of consciousness. Again, we have such movements as the tulip craze, which started in Holland and extended to many other countries, where people squandered fortunes in purchasing rare varieties of tulips. The craze passed away, but left its impression behind, for Holland still produces the greatest number and variety of tulips. In our own country, we have had the business card collecting craze, which began first with a comparatively few people at the Centennial Exhibition in 1876, and was later followed by a wave that swept over the whole country. There followed later the 14 to 15 puzzle. I use the foregoing examples only as an illustration to show that the contagion comes from a few people who are actively engaged in something a little out of the usual order, and that coming from it there is literally a hypnotic suggestion to which the receptive or negative-minded are the first to respond, and later the stronger or the more positive minds become more or less influenced. Now, it is natural that this should be so. If we consider humanity as a whole, and the individual units as forming parts of the grand body, then that which affects the parts must eventually come to affect the whole. If the original impulse is a very strong one, then the whole body is affected in a very complete way, but if the first impulse has not some good reason for its existence, or is incomplete or partial, while it may affect the receptive or negative-minded, it is quite unlikely that it will affect in any marked way the strong or positive-minded portion of the community, the nation, or the world. The foregoing statement is apropos of a movement that had its beginning in our own country. I am referring to the modern dance. Until quite recently, the United States would hardly have been called a country that was given, as a whole, to dancing. But the last few years have brought about a wonderful change, and I doubt if, at the present time, there is any other country wherein there is as much dancing going on as in our own. Now there must be some good reason for this very radical change, and I think such a reason will be found in the fact that for many years we, as a people, have been lacking in all true rhythmic expression. We have expressed ourselves in many ways and degrees, but not in a rhythmic way, not in a way that has disclosed much of either grace or beauty, and the pendulum is now swinging in the other direction. And I believe that from this on there will be an ever-increasing effort on the part of a large body of our people to give expression to life in a more beautiful and graceful way, and that this beauty and grace will not be confined solely to the dance, but will enter into practically everything that they do in life. We have not yet grasped the full import of this new movement, for while the dance is probably as old as human life on the planet, yet it is new to countless thousands who have previously cared little, if anything, for it. And it is new in the sense of its taking such a hold on the imagination and exerting an apparently compelling influence upon so many minds. I do not think that it will be as ephemeral as so many other movements we have passed through. While undoubtedly it will reach its climax and possibly decrease in a large measure, nevertheless it will not only continue to have a greater following than it has had in the past, but it will become a permanent influence for good in many other ways than simply the pleasure or joy one receives from the dancing alone. As a people, we have been so wrapped up in material advancement that we have had little time to do other than cultivate the mind toward business interests. Consequently, we derive little, if any, satisfaction out of the many things which the more artistic and beauty-loving nations of the earth find both pleasure and profit in. However, when once started, we take hold of everything not only in a more vigorous, but in a more rapid way, and possibly in a shorter time than most people, we become highly proficient in many things in which at one time we were deficient. In some directions we have been making more wonderful progress than any other nation on the face of the earth. In material accumulations, we are outstripping all the nations of the earth. The Panama Canal, our enormous system of railroads, and our labor-saving devices show us in certain departments to be ahead or fully abreast of the greatest nations of the earth. But when it comes to the artistic side of life, and the effort to express through beautiful ways and means, we are woefully deficient. As a people, we have given little, if any, encouragement to our own composers, musicians, painters, sculptors, and even architects, although perhaps within recent years the last named have had better opportunities for expression than any of the others just mentioned. We have had, then, the fullest material expression up to the present, but the development of beauty and art in America has been largely repressed. We have cultivated to the extreme material power, and this, without doubt, has caused the repression of idealism and everything in the nature of true rhythm, grace, and beauty. But we are waking up. We are coming to see that life consists of something more than material possessions, and we are beginning to express along rhythmic lines in one of the first ways that expression comes to man, through the dance. For after musical tone, dancing follows as the next necessary expression of rhythm. If we have lost all natural rhythm in the past, the inner impulse is to restore it, and if we are able to restore it in one way, later we shall be able to restore it in all ways. So no one should deplore the efforts that are being made to return to the natural rhythm of life through or by the dance. Neither can it be expected that either grace or beauty will be found at their best in the first attempt that is being made to open up the inner spring of life. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth to me the show had brought. Music, poetry, and dancing are the first three graces in human life, and they are so closely related that each one adds to the value of the others. We may think that we possess sufficient knowledge for the care of mind and body, as did the people of ancient times, but without doubt they knew, in those early days, much better about many things than we do at the present time. We are too self-sufficient. We have an idea that ours is the ideal democracy, that we know more of what constitutes the liberty, equality, and fraternity of life than has yet been known by any of the great democracies of the past. But we deceive ourselves. The ancient democracy of Greece was probably as much in advance of what we are as we are in advance of the colored race in our own midst. This may not be at all flattering to our racial pride, but I cannot see how any reasoning, logical mind can reach any other conclusion. Notwithstanding, I believe that the tendency of the advanced thinkers among our people is turning in the right direction, and that at some time in the future our bigness will become greatness. We have reached the know-it-all period, and henceforward we may be able to draw lessons from the past and profit by the example of other people. There really can be no doubt whatever that, up to a comparatively recent time, for a so-called civilized people, we have been the most deadly inartistic people that have ever encumbered the face of the earth. But it is never too late to mend. And when people are able to see their own faults and shortcomings, that is the beginning of the turn of the tide. For mistakes must be seen in order to be corrected. And if we have the liberty to commit errors, we have also the power to overcome them. America has become the melting pot for humanity, but when the dross is consumed, we shall have the pure gold. Within the nation there are doubtless innate and potential powers and possibilities as great as the world has ever known, and they exist in order to be realized. But they neither can nor will be realized through the old ways and methods. The old bottles will not hold the new wine. We must leave the old things behind and press forward to those things which are before. The new life is always the result of inner feeling and new thought, and from the two there comes outer expression. Among many people, the dance as well as song has been a part of religious ceremonial. Milton, in his Paradise Lost, makes reference to the song and dance about the sacred hill. That day, as other solemn days, they spent in song and dance about the sacred hill, mystical dance which yonder starry sphere of planets, and fixed in all her wheels, resembles nearest, mazes intricate, eccentric, intervolved yet regular. Then when most irregular they seem, and in their motions divine, so smooth her charming tones, that God's own ear listens delighted. With very few exceptions, the religious sects of the civilized world of the present, while retaining music as a part of their religious services, have done away with dancing. In fact, the dance is under a ban even in a purely secular way among many of the most prominent sects of the Christian Church. We have sufficient evidence in the Old Testament to show that the Jewish people used to dance in connection with religious ceremonial. Perhaps among none of the nations of the earth has it been used to the same degree in connection with religious rites as among the ancient Greeks. Dancing is not by any means the highest expression of life's rhythm, but it is surely as much a part of a natural expression of rhythm as music or poetry. In fact, dancing may be made a true expression of both. All over the civilized world today there exists almost a mania for dancing, and on every side you hear people arguing for or against the dance. Some say, if we are to have a revival of the dance, let us have the graceful dances of the past. Others take the ground that it is necessary to inject something new and fresh into life, and that the modern dances give evidence that such newness and freshness are entering into life. Some there be who say that many of the dances are highly immoral, and that they should be prohibited altogether. But there are people so constructed that they see immorality in everything that does not accord with their particular conventional way of looking at life. Some people can write morality into everything they do, while there are others who, looking for evil, find it in everything and in everybody. I think that the originators of the new dances should see that true rhythm, grace, and beauty are absolutely necessary to the real and lasting success of dancing. Any dance that is ungraceful or lacking in beauty is not worthy of consideration. Of course, it may be said that some people are able to infuse grace and beauty into any dance, just as some people are able to see good in everything. But even so, if the majority of dancers are unable to make the dance beautiful as well as graceful, then there can be no real reason for its existence. In fact, the truth of this has been proved, for many dances that were popular only one short year ago have no place in the dancing of today. Let it then be understood, once and for all, that rhythm, grace, and beauty constitute the enduring features of any or all dances. Our own country gave the greatest impetus to the rhythmic movement which is being expressed through the dance. This movement has become worldwide. It has met with all kinds of opposition from clerical and lay sources, and yet it has gone on regardless of both, for the reason that it contained a message within itself which, if understood and used aright, would make for the betterment of mankind. With every new departure there is always much that is going to disturb the conventional thought of the time, and a certain number of people are absolutely sure to rise up and try to thwart the progress of any movement that would make for human development. They are like so many old women trying to sweep back the onward coming tide. But progress is the keynote of life, and their puny efforts come to naught. They have nothing to do with the present or the future of the dance. It is upon the professors and the teachers who are the real exponents of the dance that the continuation and the progress of the dance will depend. From henceforward the world will not accept the partial or the incomplete, the unnatural or the ungraceful, except for a brief season of time. What the world of the present should demand is the very best of everything, for it is only the best that shall endure. At the present the shoemaker, the baker, or the candlestick maker can become the professor or the teacher of dancing, and a certain number of people will enthusiastically become their followers. But this, at best, is only a superficial, temporary condition and cannot continue. In fact, already it has become evident that the people who can inculcate the rhythm, grace, and beauty of dancing are having all they can possibly do, while the charlatans and incompetents are beginning to see the sign of the times, and are slowly but surely losing their followers. It is therefore necessary that the intelligent and cultivated professors of the dance who desire to perpetuate this renaissance of rhythmic movement should continue to improve it in every way possible through the use of rhythm and melody, grace and beauty, so that the dance may become as perfect an expression of man's inner thought and feeling as it is possible to make it. Increase the number and variety of the dances, but never sacrifice quality for either variety or number. Grace and beauty should be the determining factors in the use of any new steps in the dances. Teachers, as well as students, should realize that excesses of any kind are followed by reactions, that temperance is necessary in all things, and that there is no surer way of destroying the value of anything, no matter how worthwhile it may be, than by using it to excess. The dance has its legitimate place in the world. It can do almost untold good if used in a natural way, but its abuse will cut short its usefulness and its duration more quickly than all anathemas that may be hurled against it by the clerical or the lay mind. Its coming at the present time is really a harbinger of the artistic life that is yet to come, because the freedom of mind and body realized through the dance will reach out and affect life in many new and varied artistic ways. Not that I mean that it will bring new arts into being, but it will so color the other arts that we shall have newer and more artistic expression. All the arts are so related and interrelated that a movement in any one is really the starting of an impulse that will reach out and extend to all the rest. After all, no matter what the art may be, it is founded on the great trinity of rhythm, melody, and harmony. The recognition of these three brings grace, symmetry, and beauty to all the rest. Life is one, but diversity is made evident throughout all expression. One law controls and directs the whole universe, but expresses itself through a multiplicity and variety of forms. Unity exists at the heart of life and diversity on its surface. Dancing is necessary to the full development of man, inasmuch as all natural expression is essential to right living. There is a mental and physical exhilaration in dancing that has a vitalizing effect upon the whole life. The full benefit, however, can only be obtained when the dancer is alive to the indwelling rhythm that is necessary to all true dancing. When he thoroughly feels this rhythm, then his movements become graceful and there is a beauty of expression. Almost everyone enjoys seeing one or more people who are dancing with rhythm, grace, and beauty. The effect on the onlooker is often to exhilarate in a beneficial way. I have an idea that the person who perfects himself in the art of dancing is also perfecting himself in many other ways. When one is able to express in a graceful or beautiful way, then this also has an uplifting effect in many other directions. The dance gives courtesy to speech and grace to action. As a physical exercise for the perfecting of health and strength, there are few that will prove so beneficial, because there is probably no other exercise wherein all the muscles of the body are used to the same degree. I can understand that excessive dancing, or the abuse of the dance through unnatural and ungraceful movements, may prove a detriment rather than a gain, but that holds good of anything and everything in life. No one can resort to unnatural ways of doing anything in life without getting unnatural results. In dancing one learns, or at least one should learn, to hold the body erect in an easy and a graceful way. Through doing this, all the organs of the body are held in their natural positions, so that each and every organ is enabled to function in a perfectly natural way. No one must mistake the use of time for rhythm in either music or dancing. Rhythm is a direct result of the inner feeling, and time becomes associated with it, yet it is something far greater in its power than time can ever become. A person may sing, play, or dance and keep perfect time, and yet give no expression of true rhythm. Rhythm always lends itself to graceful action and movement. Time is acquired through the use of the ear, and when not associated with rhythm is purely artificial. You will see many people who keep perfect time in dancing who are, nevertheless, awkward and ungraceful in movement, while others who are not keeping any better time are natural and graceful in movement because they are using life's inner rhythm instead of merely using time. The easy, elastic, graceful body is a true expression of the rhythm in the life of man. Dancing is one of the greatest arts for calling out and using rhythm, therefore it must occupy a worthy place in man's life. It is too soon as yet to say that the dance will become a part of religious ceremonial, but there is no reason to doubt that eventually it will regain its proper place in the religious systems of the world as an outer expression of inner joy, rhythm, and melody. End of chapter.